So hello, everyone. Good morning for those that are in the United States, and good afternoon for those in Bosnia and Europe. And welcome to our today's discussion. My name is Vildana Bijedić. I'm the Vice President of the Working Group for Bosnia and Herzegovina. And it is a privilege to host this important conversation at a moment when Bosnia and Herzegovina stands at a critical juncture, both in its domestic reforms and its position on the global stage. Our guest today is Dr. Alija Kozljak. He brings a wealth of experience and expertise that few can match. As Chief of Staff and National Security Advisor to the Chairman of the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Dr. Denis Bećirović, Dr. Kožljak is directly involved in shaping the country's approach for security, diplomacy, and international engagement. Dr. Kožljak's career spans military leadership and diplomacy, including serving as Bosnia's military representative to NATO. His tenure coincided with critical moments in the alliance, such as NATO response to different aggressions in Europe and its ongoing adaptation to modern threats. Dr. Kožljak has also contributed as an academic, focusing on security, strategies, and international relations. And today, as the United States prepares for a new president to take office in January, the question for many is how this relationship transition will reshape the U.S. foreign policy in regions like the Balkans and our beloved Bosnia and Herzegovina. And Dr. Kožljak has prepared a presentation for us, and the topic will be key challenges Bosnia and Herzegovina is facing nowadays. So without further delay, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Alija Kozljak. Dr. Kožljak, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Vildana. Thank you, Patrick, for inviting me. Thank you, all friends of Bosnia, for your interest to discuss topics related to the progress of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Before I join you, I had a brief conversation with President Bećirović, informing him about the topics I will share with you, and he sent warm regards to all of you. So I will start with a short introduction that will include, I think, all of your key priorities, but also I will leave some time for our discussion afterwards. Let me start with a global context. Russian aggression against Ukraine has caused tectonic geopolitical changes in Europe and around the world. It is very relevant for us, for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that's why I have to mention this at the beginning. It has dramatically increased the need of the Europe to strengthen its influence in its close neighborhood, in particular of the European Union. And therefore, one of the most important questions is how the European continent, in particular European Union, will prepare to handle new realities. The ghosts of the past have been reawakened. So Russian aggression revived the policy of territorial expansionism. We all know that Bosnia and Herzegovina was the victim of territorial expansionism recently. Today it is Ukraine, and tomorrow it could be any country if we do not stop this evil. So that is how we see this global situation. And obviously developments in Ukraine influence and will affect the situation in Europe, in Western Balkans, and in Bosnia and Herzegovina too. So the project of creating Greater Russia or Russian world is obviously active. Unfortunately, this project has its allies, its proxies in the Western Balkans. Following the examples of Russia, the project of creating a Greater Serbia or a Serb world has been also activated. The Republic of Serbia follows the Russian model of relations with its neighbors. And we are witnessing that scenario on a daily basis. while the European Union member states strengthen interstate relations based on mutual respect, the Republic of Serbia do not align with European values, actually aligning instead with the so-called model of the Russian world. And the European Union clearly confirmed that last week by the fact that the EU member states have once again failed to reach an agreement to open Cluster 3 in membership negotiations with Serbia. That is a clear signal about Serbia's behavior from the perspective of the European Union. The essential problem of Bosnia and Herzegovina is related to the external attempts to weaken, divide, and ultimately destroy our country. This is very important to have in mind. Yes, there are plenty of other challenges and problems. We mentioned corruption, inefficiency of the state institutions, ethnic division. Yeah, all that. But the essential problem is actually related to the external attempts. And the leadership of Republic of Serbia is aggressively interfering in internal affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as of some other countries, Kosovo, of course, Montenegro, Macedonia to some extent. One of the key pieces of evidence supporting my claim is the declaration adopted by the so-called All Serb Assembly in Belgrade on 8th of June this year. So in addition to this adoption by the so-called All Serb Assembly, the declaration was also affirmed in the Parliament of Serbia and the Parliament of Republika Srpska entity. And they already scheduled the next session of the Assembly for 2026. So 49 topics declaration is a strategic document that, according to the last developments, is strategic guidelines for leadership in Serbia and in Banja Luka. There are 49 topics, and more than 50% are directly targeted against sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We should all know, and we should be loud in pointing out that the so-called All Serb Assembly does not hold a status superior to that one of the state bodies of Bosnia and Herzegovina, nor does it have the authority to declare, for instance, a military neutrality of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which they advocate. Actually, they try to do so, but we should be very loud about this. And we, the cabinet of Dr. Bečirović, use every single opportunity to explain that to our key allies and partners. They have to be aware of these threatening actions by leadership of Serbia. I will make a few examples. Recently, one of the deputy ministers of the government of the Republic of Serbia openly stated that the process of unification between Serbia and the Republika Srpska has commenced. This is very dangerous and absolutely unacceptable for us. Minister of Foreign Affairs last week stated us, actually sending message to us, to Bosnia and Herzegovina, don't ask us anymore to respect territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Can you imagine such a narrative that comes directly from the officials of the neighboring state? So the essential goal of leadership of Serbia is, as President Bečirović stated in front of the UN Security Council recently the gradual anschluss of the Republika Srpska entity into Serbia. And there are plenty of evidence. So they are trying to achieve the goal by abusing the institute of the Agreement on Special Parallel Relations. And I commented that publicly, and also I commented that with some officials from European Union last week. Let me remind you too that the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina clearly states that the parallel relations with neighboring countries can be established in accordance with the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina. The declaration is contrary to the Dayton Agreement and the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We presented this argumentation to all capitals across the globe, highlighting all these points that are directly undermining sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Another important challenge for Bosnia and Herzegovina is a status of the state property. You are probably aware of that. It is especially unacceptable that the leadership of Serbia does not respect international law, as well as the final and binding judgments of the Constitutional Court of Bosnia and Herzegovina on the state property of Bosnia and Herzegovina. State property is an inseparable part of the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And actually, that's why they are attacking territorial state property. In Dayton, the infamous president of Serbia at that time, Slobodan Milosevic, tried to divide the state property of Bosnia and Herzegovina between the entities. And Milosevic obviously did not achieve this goal during the aggression against Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also during the negotiations in Dayton. Therefore, the international community must not allow this word objective to be achieved in peace. So international community urges for a long time domestic actors to adopt the state property law. Office of the High Representative announced a year ago that High Representative engaged several local and foreign experts to draft the state property law, but he has not announced completion yet. I'm not sure you are aware of that, but the cabinet of the member of the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Dr. Bečirović, spent a year drafting the proposal of the state property law. And Mr. Komšić, member of the presidency, supported the proposal, which has been officially adopted during the last presidency session and submitted to the Parliament of Bosnia and Herzegovina. For us, this is a giant step. And also, in the last week communique of the Peace Implementation Council, this has been described as a good effort and a solid base for the final solution. So if we actually, by this, we had at least two objectives. The one is that we are obliged, we officials in Bosnia and Herzegovina, to adopt such an important law. But also we sent a message by the content of the document related to the minimum of standards that are accepted for citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I will continue by expressing that the Bosnia and Herzegovina's foreign policy goals are clearly defined by strategic documents and state laws. And they are adopted by the full consensus of all representatives in the parliament, presidency, council of ministers, depending on the level and document that has been adopted. So membership to NATO, the European Union membership, as well as good neighborly relations are our key foreign policy priorities. And Bosnia and Herzegovina made important but not sufficient strides toward Euro-Atlantic and European integration. However, if it were not for the externally initiated obstructions and blockades facing our country, our progress could have been even greater, I would say. Being encouraged by Russia and Serbia, the authorities of the entity Republika Srpska are dangerously threatening the foundation of Dayton Peace Agreement and also undermining all reform processes that will bring country closer to the membership of European Union and NATO. So they publicly advocate unilateral destruction of the Dayton Agreement, which is clearly stated in declaration. They were shocked by that. They also advocate renewal of the criminal project of Greater Serbia. They advocate destruction of the state of Bosnia and Herzegovina and also the non-compliance with international and national law. In such circumstances, who could imagine a tangible progress towards European and Euro-Atlantic integration processes? And even the Peace Implementation Council Steering Board, its report from June 2024 clearly pointed out all these anti-constitutional activities by the authorities of Republic of Srpska. In light of the recent dangerous attacks on the Dayton Agreement, it is irresponsible to see a weakening of the institution of High Representative. You know, even recently, Mrs. Cvijanović, during the meetings in Brussels, heavily attacked the office of the High Representative. It is anti-constitutional act because there are well-defined preconditions for the closure of the office of the High Representative. We look forward for that day to happen, but we are strongly in line with the decision to have preconditions met in order to have High Representative office closed. In May this year, the UN General Assembly adopted the resolution on the International Day of Reflection and Commemoration of the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica. And after the final judgments of the highest UN courts on the genocide against Bosniaks, it was very important that the UN General Assembly also adopted this resolution. We must not forget that the genocide against the Bosniaks was the tragic culmination of the aggression perpetrated against Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is very important to have that in mind today, because, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are witnessing on daily basis these hegemonic attempts by neighboring Serbia. And unfortunately, the leadership of Republic of Serbia does not respect the judgments of the United Nations courts, nor the mentioned resolution of the United Nations General Assembly. This is civilizational norm. This is not about Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yes, partly, but mainly this is the civilizational norm. And that was the minimum we expected from Serbia to align itself with this resolution. Those who witnessed the Dayton Agreement are actively engaged in the Peace Implementation Council. So the United Nations, NATO, and European Union, together with these countries from the Peace Implementation Council, must raise the alarm regarding the threats to peace and stability in the region and also in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is very important that the Peace Implementation Council Steering Committee adopted a clear interpretation of the three important elements for ensuring peace and stability. The one, sovereignty belongs to Bosnia and Herzegovina as a state, whose territorial integrity is guaranteed, among other things, by the General Framework Agreement for Peace. And second, entities within Bosnia and Herzegovina are not states. They exist solely based on the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina and do not have their own sovereignty. That is very important conclusion by the Peace Implementation Council Steering Board. So the international community maintains the necessary instruments to ensure compliance with the agreement. I want to especially emphasize the importance of adopting the decision to extend the mandate of the EUFOR Althea mission by the UN Security Council in November this year. According to the resolution, the EUFOR Althea mission is the legal successor of the earlier military mission established by the Dayton Peace Agreement. And this mission has the function of preserving peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also implementing the military aspects of the Dayton Peace Agreement. And we could prove that the EUFOR presence is important in this complex time for the preservation of peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also stability in the region. The recent message of NATO that it will not allow a security vacuum in Bosnia and Herzegovina in the event of the eventual ending of the EUFOR Althea mission was very important. All actors involved in the decision-making process were aware if EUFOR mandate will not be extended, then according to the Annex 1 of the Dayton Agreement, NATO mandate is in place. The future of Bosnia and Herzegovina is linked to the implementation of the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. You know what I'm talking about. Bosnia and Herzegovina has an obligation to ensure the individual rights of citizens, not only the collective rights of the people. It is the time for retrograde forces to stop obstructing the implementation of the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights. There are examples of discrimination in political representation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the European Court of Human Rights has ruled that Bosnia's constitution, so Dayton Constitution, discriminates against minorities who are not part of three, how it is stated, constituent people, Bošnjak, Croats, and Serbs. Yet this issue remains unsolved. That is a big problem for democracy of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And pressure on the European Court of Human Rights due to the last judgment in the Slaven Kovačević case is also unacceptable. We were, actually the President Bećirović was very clear about that. We must eliminate every form of discrimination against citizens, including discrimination based on ethnicity and place of residence. So these are, I would say, a few of key challenges that Bosnia and Herzegovina are facing at the moment. I could talk for hours about other challenges, but if you allow me, I will stop here and I will give you a chance, all of you, to discuss the topic all together. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Alija. And Vildana, if you want to lead our question and answers.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kožljak, for this rather urgent and comprehensive and candid overview of the challenges Bosnia and Herzegovina is currently facing. Your remarks highlight not only the alarming situation, but also the activities that we have to keep in mind. So as we transition to our question and answer session, I'd like to begin with a question that connects Bosnia's geopolitical challenges with the broader context that you have just outlined here. So Dr. Kožljak, Bosnia and Herzegovina remains at a crossroad of East and West, a crossroad of global and regional tensions that you mentioned. So how does the presidency plan to navigate this balance of relations with the EU, NATO, and Russia, especially as global tensions escalate, as we know, in Middle East and Eastern Europe?
That is very important question for us, and it is on the top of our agenda. I have to admit that. So history suggests actually that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a front line between West and East for centuries. You all know that. And we suffer from that. We mainly suffer from that. So therefore, we must not make a mistake in the future. The price could be too high. It is already high, but could be even higher. So obviously, we are too small state to cope with these complex challenges alone. We have to find allies and partners properly. So it is of the crucial importance to make the right choice about strategic partners and allies. But that is not sufficient. Partners and allies will not do our job. We have to be responsible and prove ourselves as relevant partners, and we have to contribute to the international security and stability. It does not mean, from my perspective, that we cannot have partners on the East as well. We could have partners on the East, on the West, on the South, on the North, but those that respect international law, those that share similar civilizational norms and values, and those that respect sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that is the fundament for our decision-making process in that regard.
Unmute, Vildana.
Thanks, Kenan. Thank you, Dr. Kožljak, for your thoughtful response. So it's clear that Bosnia and Herzegovina, its geographic position, it's together with these external pressures and ongoing geopolitical tensions, it's Bosnia as this central stage. So I would like now at this point to invite our audience to join the discussion. This is an opportunity to explore the themes we have touched on further, or to bring forward new questions that would deepen our understanding of Bosnia's challenges and opportunities in this very moment. So please use the question or just raise your hand here on Zoom, or submit a question via a chat box, and we'll do our best to address as many questions as possible in the time that we have today. So to start, let's start question from Dr. Arnautovic.
Yeah.
Dr. Arnautovic, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Kenan Arnautovic, and thank you, Dr. Kožljak, for taking your time from your busy schedule to join us today and give us some thoughtful opinions about this. I'm sorry, I don't know this new Zoom, so I couldn't put the emoji. I didn't know how to do the emoji, so I waved the hand. So I think, I am a participant of Bosnian defendant war I was member of surgical team of Vrhovne Komande. So I know very well what happened during the war. And obviously, we are coming to a crucial junction of our history in Bosnia and Herzegovina in the coming months and years. The unity of Bosnian forces is going to be of paramount importance because what they are doing right now, they are looking at our decisiveness, they are looking at our resolution to defend our homeland, and they are looking for any soft spots where they can employ their goals. One of the things that our allies, such as United States of America, my other homeland, and others did, unfortunately, a year and a half ago, unknowingly, they weakened our country by this implementation of one-day change of the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina, where they eliminated the winners of the elections, which opened the further space to weaken the Bosnian defense. The three parties that took part in this collaboration or in this government forming went ahead and weakened further Bosnia by meeting in Dodik's distillery, meeting in Banja Luka and Mostar without flags of Bosnia, giving a lot of positions that were unnecessary to the people who don't like Bosnia. So weakening Bosnia from inside. You mentioned Presuda Kovačević, which unfortunately looks like it's failing, and official members of pro-Bosnian parties did not support, as we know very well, this court hearing in Hague recently, and it looks like they have a majority right now to overturn this decision. Same is with the vote for Judge Vukoja in the Supreme Court, and I know that President Bečirović opposed his own party by singling his opinion. And of course, voters did give a response to this behavior. But my question to you is, what can pro-Bosnian parties do? What is the remedy for them to reunite again, stop this weakening of the country? Because if you don't have response from inside, or if you weaken your institution by giving to others positions, this further enables the attack on our nation. So what can we do to stop this, unite the pro-Bosnian forces and give them the decisive response? Thank you.
Kenan, I will start by saying that first of all, myself, I'm not aligned with any political party today, and I was never aligned with any political party in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So my position is, so my only party and my position is Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I can also say that President Bečirović, after being elected, is a statesman who makes decision not based on political party interest, but mainly on the strategic goals and national interests of Bosnia and Herzegovina established by official institutions. Bosnia and Herzegovina is facing a deadlock in terms of reforms. That is obvious. And we have coalition that is composed of parties from entity of Republic of Srpska, which is the SNSD, as well as parties from federations, so-called Trojka and HDZ. So can you imagine, I'm not defending anyone, but can you imagine coalition and cooperation in order to make a progress for Bosnia and Herzegovina if you depend on the consensus made with the Milorad Dodik, who is openly undermining sovereignty, territorial integrity, and state institutions of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So it is not easy at all to work in this very complex circumstances. Yes, they can perform much better, but I think that other parties, that all citizens in Bosnia and Herzegovina, media, all actors should be aware of the situation and should be aware of the necessity that state interests of Bosnia and Herzegovina should be on the first place, not political parties' interest that was for a long time in place in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So there are political challenges, Kenan, that are related to the complex governance structure of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I will not talk about decentralized structure and that constraint that this structure actually brings in terms of political gridlock and difficulty in reaching consensus about reforms. So obviously the political system and political decision-making process is heavily influenced by this ethnic representation and also heavily influenced by these destructive forces that are unfortunately not eager to work on progress in terms of efficiency of Bosnia and Herzegovina as a state and its state institutions. There are also institutional challenges, rule of law. So weak judicial system in Bosnia and Herzegovina, corruption also influences ability of Bosnia and Herzegovina and this coalition to make tangible progress. Slow reform implementation is an outcome, but slow reform implementation is also related to the motivation to make further progress and to work together and to work for the country. And that's why I see some positive steps. We all have seen some positive steps from the European Union, finally. First of all, offering a candidacy status to Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then the opportunity to make some remaining reforms and to open negotiations about the membership. So there are also external challenges. I mentioned some of them at the beginning. And these external challenges are related to geopolitical influence, to the EU enlargement fatigue by the European Union. So within the European Union, there are reduced enthusiasm about integrating Western Balkan countries into the Union. There are also lack of political consensus. So despite all of these challenges, Bosnia has taken some steps forward, including being granted the EU candidacy status in December 2002, and also in 2024 opened the negotiation process. There are 4 laws to be adopted soon, and I think that coalition is very close to the solution which will actually remove remaining obstacles for the country to open the negotiations with the European Union.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kožljak. Kenan, does that answer your question?
Sure. I mean, we got your. I still think that unity of pro-Bosnian forces is essential to reject the appetites of our neighbors because they know very well, they are not willing to attack if they see a resolution, because they have experience from the previous war where they saw that they lost the war in essence and their goals. So the more disunity, the more aggressive there will be, and vice versa. The more unity, they will be deterred, in my opinion. And we need to show strength. Nobody likes weak, especially in this world nowadays. Everybody likes strength. Nobody likes weak parties. Thank you. That's all what I have. Thank you.
Just one sentence, Kenan, just to add something. I'm not sure you are aware that President Bečirović 3 times so far gathered all political parties, including SDP, NIP, SDA, DF, about this strategic project that you are talking about. The one of them is state property, another one is gas law, and a few more. So there are attempts in that regard. But be sure that not all of them, as I stated a few minutes ago, are not always aware of the necessity to have the national interest as a top priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kožljak. We have a question now in the chat, but let's go to Azem first, who raised his hand. Azem, please go ahead.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Alija, thank you for being with us today. So Bosnia has many challenges and threats, but also there are some opportunities that we have to explore. And I think you mentioned now one of them, the new administration is going to take over in a month, new president, new administration. And this guideline that will go through South Bosnia, I think that's of the economic and strategic interest of United States, but also of us who love Bosnia. So I think I would like to hear how much the cabinet of the presidency is involved and where do we stand with that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Azem, for that. That is one of the, again, a key topic, at least for the cabinet of Dr. Bečirović. In that line, we already drafted, proposed, and adopted at the level of the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina law on a gas transition. We had a lot of opposition in that regard, but we succeeded because we based our drafting on arguments. And also we based it on the law, and international and national law. And that is a solid base for continuation of the project that you mentioned, which is the Southern Interconnection, which will enable diversification of the gas supply for Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also for the entire region. And we have seen that Russia is not happy about that at all. And we are not surprised why Russia is not happy, because of the monopoly that Russia possesses at the moment. But there are some people surprised by the fact that HDZ president and his establishment is also unhappy about this idea. So they are the main, I would say, the chief manipulator in terms of having this project completed. This is another example how someone see this, I would say, a global project, which is of the national interest, to be something, to be a good opportunity actually for him to get some individual, personal, I would say, financial interest in that. So HDZ at the moment has blocked this project. We are not surprised by Russia, but Russia cannot do it. And the United States ambassador recently, I think a few days ago, gave a very strong statement about that. And he was very direct and open, targeting all those that are on the path on fostering implementation of the Southern Interconnection. So there are opportunities for Bosnia and Herzegovina in addition to this one. So my position, my approach is that, I mean, every problem consider as an opportunity. And we have already benefited from that. So another opportunity for us is the new administration of the United States. And this is exactly, so I'm really serious about this, how we consider the situation. So we will work hardly to establish good and qualitative connections with the United States leadership. We will also ask you and every other relevant partner and ally to work with us to actually present us as a relevant partner, I mean, country of Bosnia and Herzegovina and leadership, its leadership, but also to convince the US leadership that stability and security of Bosnia and Herzegovina and Euro-Atlantic future of Bosnia and Herzegovina is our common interest. So we will work on that. And there are also plenty of opportunities that derive from that, like developing of national strategies, strengthening of institution, investment, education, and workforce, enhance public diplomacy, leverage, and many others. So we are aware of them, and yeah, we have to, I mean us, we have to work locally, domestically, in order to enhance our platform of joint forces that share our interests. And then we have to continue our work on sending the strategic message, I mean, developing strategic communication as we have done within previous 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kožljak. And we have about 10 minutes left, so maybe a couple of more questions. So I mentioned Alma Begicevic. Alma, I guess you would like me to read your question, or do you want to ask yourself? Alma, are you there? No. Okay, I'll read her question. Let me see. Where did it go? Okay. All right. So Alma Begicevic from Chicago is asking, to what extent are Bosnian politicians able to fight the Serbian media war? It appears that for any key political issues, such as state integrity, there are official statements in English language where media represents Serbia as respectful of Bosnian territorial integrity, thus contradicting the very behavior and statements Serbian officials make favoring unity of Serb nation that strongly undermine Bosnian state integrity. This adversarial approach Serbia uses to influence public consciousness puts Bosnia in defensive and weak position, and this strategy of power and domination over information is a constant. And she gives an example of Vučić Serbia cares about the entities, Serb Republic survival, but respects territorial integrity of BiH. So yeah, the question is about the media war, about the information. It's a very good question because, you know, everyone is on social media, everyone is reading, you know, from the phone. So it's a very good and effective way to manipulate the people.
Well, yes, it is. Media is one of the strongest tools and assets that political leaders possess today. And this is a very important question, actually. Media role in the politics today is huge. We all know that. And just to mention a fact maybe you were not aware of, President Vučić during the wartime was the chief of Slobodan Milošević propaganda. So he's minister for propaganda. So can you imagine someone whose background is so heavily linked to propaganda, how he's actually able and how he is interested to use a media for propaganda. So hybrid warfare activities that are very present in the region and in Bosnia and Herzegovina in particular are actually very much implemented using the media platform. Disinformation or sometimes, direct propaganda activities like we have seen after adoption of the resolution by the UN General Assembly. So Serbian media in Serbia, they have transferred, they have interpreted that decision by the UN General Assembly as a victory of Serbia. They have been counting votes in the way, counting all those that were not voting for the adoption of the resolution as they were against, which is nonsense. But the public in Serbia, they have accepted it. I have been talking with some regular people. I have a lot of friends in Serbia or Serbs across the globe. And they were really, manipulated. They said, hey, what you have achieved by that resolution, you lost. So we spent a time, actually, we have established the committee that works on implementation of the resolution. And we included one important segment, which is media. So we are working on the awareness of media to actually inform citizens about these strategic topics, including, for example, this one of the resolution, and explaining the way of decision-making process and so on. So Vučić is using media heavily as a weapon. It uses not just against Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also against its own citizens very often. And that's why I can state where media are used as a propaganda weapon, democracy is on the very, very low level. So we have to deal with that, and we are fully aware of that issue.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I can confirm that not only the digital media, the online media, but also on the ground. I was in Serbia shortly after being in New York, and all the posters all over the city, and also on the way to the airport, they were above the highway. There were huge sayings, oh, Serbs are not genocide people. Serbs are not genocide people, like every couple of meters. So the propaganda is extremely, offline and online. And so Amra, I hope that answers your question. Alma Begicevic from Chicago. And we have Dr. David Pettigrew raise his hand. This would be probably the last question as we're getting closer to our 1-hour meeting. So Dr. David Pettigrew, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Vildana. Thanks to Dr. Kožljak for his presentation today, taking our questions. I was going to say that, the working group be grateful for his support in our efforts to ensure the right to memorialization at some of the atrocity sites where the survivors' associations have still been forbidden from installing memorials, such as Barutni Magazine, the Partisan Sports Hall in Foča, and even Pilica Cultural Center, which was judged to be part of the Srebrenica genocide, and there's no memorial allowed there. And so that I wanted to mention those as examples of the problem that's preventing transitional justice on the ground. But also, I thought in the 1 or 2 minutes that I have, I thought since we have a statesman of Dr. Kozljak's stature, it would be interesting to ask if at this point anything can be concluded from the fall of the Assad regime, and with respect to the implications of the influence of Turkey or the Russian Federation in the region, since it seems to advance the cause of Turkey, but Russian Federation had been one of the key backers of the Assad regime. That seems to have let it fall. So I don't know if it's too early to conclude anything, but I thought since you were here, it would be interesting to hear your thoughts about that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's a very fresh developments, although we all follow the situation for a long time. You know that there was agreement in place already in 2020 between rebels and Saddam regime, but this actually proves one thing that I stated at the beginning, how geopolitical developments could influence situations in specific regions. Obviously, rebels couldn't do something like this. Actually, they were not able to do something like this 4 years ago, but they have been waiting for the opportunity. And this was the right opportunity for them. And we are exactly scared of that. So talking about situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we always consider the geopolitical situation seriously. And we are absolutely sure that those forces around Bosnia and Herzegovina, external and internal, that works against sovereignty and territorial integrity of Bosnia and Herzegovina are waiting for their opportunity. We are absolutely sure about that. And it is easy to read, actually. If you read strategic documents of Serbia, I mean, a national strategy from 2019 and a military strategic document from 2020, it was clearly stated. So they are waiting for right opportunity. And we have seen the leadership from Republika Srpska, actually Dodik, was clearly stating, waiting for results of elections in the United States that, okay, he was celebrating Trump's victory, saying, okay, now it's our time. So these developments in Syria will actually, first of all, are a very clear example of a new world order. So you see a new center of power, including Turkey. And also it will heavily influence developments in the region. We have seen also how Israel reacted on that, how Russia reacted on that. So further developments are expected soon. But for us, for small country, yes, it is important to follow situation there, and we do. But we are too small to influence what will happen there. But what is important for us to try to make conclusions, how that could influence situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina and around, and we do so. Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. So we don't have more time, right, Patrick? We have no more time for any other questions.
Just so we respect everyone's schedule, we should wrap up. But I want to especially thank Dr. Kožljak for making time to meet with us, to you, Vildana, and to everyone who joined us today for a very interesting, very thought-provoking discussion. You know already, I think, and hope that you have our full support, that this group is committed to the goals that we've outlined and to the well-being and welfare of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And it's so encouraging to have someone like you in a position of authority and power advancing those important goals and aware of the realistic situation and the threats and challenges that face Bosnia and Herzegovina. So a very, very warm thank you to you and to all who joined us today.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you to everyone in the audience today. And yeah, stay focused, stay informed, and until our next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
From my side too, thank you to all your efforts and assistance to Bosnia and Herzegovina. And see you soon.
Hvala, doktore.
Hvala.
Hvala.